a juggling act at best. I mean, so take us through your month of how you go week by week, what books you're working on.
I just cry. No, I feel really lucky to get to work on them. I'm working on, right now in Batman, we're in 0 year, which I really wanted to say thank you to everybody for being so supportive of, just because we were terrified. I mean, Dan will tell you, I was like, really, really scared of doing it, but it's a story I really believe in a lot. The idea was essentially that Dan and DC made me aware of the fact that, year one wouldn't really fit anymore as Batman's origin in the 52, even though we tried to sort of preserve what we could originally with the 52, just because a lot of the characters in that story's origins have changed, and stories have changed, a lot of them in really exciting ways, but it just makes it impossible for that story to still stand. So knowing that there was no origin, we decided, all right, well, if we're going to do it, we better do it big and different and do it our own way and make it something that you guys could read and say, all right, I've never seen it like this before. And it feels modern. It feels like growing up in the city in the 80s, in New York in the 80s, year one was hugely important to me because I saw that city in New York all the time. You saw prostitution and you saw drugs, and Times Square looked like that, And that's why Batman became real to me. So the idea was, here, let's try and do something that has Batman growing up in a modern city with the fears of big, sudden violence, the kinds of things that we're afraid of nowadays, in addition to the kind of urban rot and that stuff, but the bigger fears, the fears that suddenly something will happen on a Sunday afternoon or that you don't expect, and those fears that are real and potent. And create a gang in the Red Hood gang that would essentially represent that kind of random violence and have him stand up for it. And he'll have him need to learn he needs to mean something and inspire people to resist in that way, that kind of fear. So that really was the impetus for it, and it's broken, to give some spoilers, it's broken into 3 parts. I don't know if I've said that. So the first section is 4 issues, the second is 3, and the last is 4. And you'll see 3 very different Gothams. The Riddler is the main villain in it. If you haven't picked it up yet, he's crazy fun to write. I was talking to Paul Dini, and he was like, I was like, people don't use the Riddler a lot. Before I used him, he's like, yeah, try writing riddles. I was like, it can't be that bad, And then I'm like, oh yeah, why is 6 afraid of 7? But it's really hard. Riddles are really hard, but they're very rewarding. But the Riddler, in our interpretation, believes that riddles are these ancient battles of wits, and he goes back to mythology and folklore and talks about the Sphinx and all of these kinds of ways that riddles are essentially you pitted against somebody else to see if you can figure out a simple answer from a complicated question. If you can, you get to live. It's how, in fairy tales, the prince wins the princess a lot, and in different sort of legends and stuff, kings are proven worthy. So he sees himself as about to test Gotham and see if he can make it smarter. And if no one can answer his riddle, then he'll go down in flames. And so in that way, you're going to see a really transformed Gotham. You're going to get to see an early Poison Ivy. You're going to get to see a villain I'm really excited to reinvent, who I don't think you'll see coming. You're going to see new bat suits, new Batmobile that Greg designed that's totally different than anyone before. And the bat suit, I sort of gave a couple people a sneak peek at the signing, but I think if you saw it, it looks radically different, right? Yeah, it's pretty awesome. So it's meant to be militaristic and cool and rock and roll, and it's Bruce. He has a totally different look also. His I don't want to give it away, but he looks different without the cowl too. The origin of the Joker, or our sort of interpretation of what might be the origin of the Joker in some ways coming, and you're going to see just a lot of really crazy stuff that, done differently. The next issue is the Bat, and it's done differently. So I really hope you love it. I always say, I'm sorry if you don't. And then Greg, if I'm ever on a panel with Greg, he's like, don't be a pussy, don't say sorry. I'm like, okay, I'm not sorry. But I am. If you don't like it, you don't like it. If you don't like it, if you don't like it, I'm sorry, but I love it, and Greg and I love it. And it's a different interpretation. We wanted to do stuff that hopefully you can look at and say year one will always be there as a masterpiece, but maybe this is one that you can read for its own for its own merits and really enjoy as a Batman interpretation for a different generation in some ways. So that's 0 year, I guess, as much as I can spoil about it, I guess, ahead of time. And then Superman Unchained, I'm having a blast on that book. I still geek out whenever I get a page from Jim. I was assigning and I got a page and I'm like, squeak. From Jim, it's like, I'm like, be professional. When you talk to Jim, I'm like, hello, Jim, or whatever, but you're like, it's Jim Lee. I
I do the same thing.
He's also like this amazing magical elf that can basically like make anything happen all the time. Like when we were in San Diego, and I'll be like, oh man, I wish I could go to the Godzilla thing, right? And that was the one thing I wanted to do, and he'll be like, let me make a call. I'm like, no one can get into that. And he's like, boop, 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 and then you're in. And then not only that, but like I left the panel and ran there.
Yeah.
I left a signing with him, and he's like, go ahead, I'll meet you there. I'm like, you're gonna be late. He's like, no, I'm not. And I ran straight from the signing to the Godzilla thing, and he was already there. And Dan was there. Dan
True
was
story.
there, and I was like, I was literally, I was like ready. I was sweating. I had run all the way there, and I'm like, how did you do that? He's like, what do you mean? I'm just here. You know, and I was just like, whatever. Anyway, what's going on in that book is, sorry. What's going on in that book is, next issue, again, to give some spoilers, because you guys, you know, you deserve them, you're here, right? So, next issue, we really reveal who the antagonist of the series, this guy Wraith, and reveal his military history, that he's been a part of major campaigns behind the scenes that have shaped the world in a lot of ways, from the 30s to now. And we make our big case against Superman in that issue, or Lane does. Luthor has my favorite moment that I've written in the series so far, and his plot steps up huge. You're going to get a really badass moment from Lois. She's in a plane, as you saw last time, going down because this terrorist group essentially knocks the power out of it. And in the next issue, you know, the pilot's like, he's like, call Superman, and she's sort of like, Superman has better things to do. Like, I can handle this myself, you know, I'm Lois. And so she takes over the controls and everything, and so you get to see her be a hero as well, which is a lot of fun. She's got a big plot in it. And we make our case against Superman, and what Lane says to him is, you know, my problem with you, Superman, is all you care about is hearing this all the time. You know, he does the slow clap. And he's like, because deep down, you really do want to change the world, don't you? You want to take down that, you know, warlord in the Sudan. You want to take down that dictator in Macron, you know? But instead, you need to hear people clapping for you. So you save a falling building, or you save a satellite falling from a space station falling from the sky. But in fact, you're the greatest mass murderer of all time, because you let people die right and left. And you hear them screaming all day, and you don't do anything about it. And you want to. And this guy does. And because he doesn't need to be a hero publicly. And so he's like, the real shame of it is, you know, when you landed, we saw the rocket, and we thought, another hero like this guy, but what a disappointment you've turned out to be. So, yeah.
It's cold.
Yeah, well, yeah, it's cold, right? And he gets kicked across the state. He gets kicked across the state of Utah, you know, which is pretty awesome. Jim's always like, Jim has this thing where he'll call or email at 3 in the morning to be like, I have an idea for this. And I try and stay up because I know it's coming, you know? I'm like, you can stay up, you can do it. Jim's page is coming. And then I'll miss it, I'll fall asleep, and then he'll give me like a 5-minute window where he's like, what do you think? I'm gonna do this. And if I don't answer in 5 minutes, he does it. You know, so I'm always like, you know, I wake up and it's like done. But then the thing is, it's always like 10 times better than anything I imagined. So he was supposed to get punched across the state of Utah, and there's actually a Google map of the state as he's like, for real. But then Jim called up and he's like, what if he bicycle kicks him? And I was like, I woke up to that in the morning, that text, and I was like, no, I think that's too crazy, dude. But he's like, oh, I'm sorry, I already did it. Here's the page. And then I saw it, and it's awesome because he can float. So he just kind of floats like he's gonna bite, and then he can wind up and kick him, and he's like, he kicks him, and it's just crazy. So anyway, the series really ramps up. All the characters, you know, Jimmy Olsen has a big plot in it, which is really fun. Lex has a really fun moment with him where he's like, you've been Superman's pal a long time now, why don't you try being mine? And Lois has a big plot. It's really fun. I'm really proud of it. I'm terrified writing that series as I was with Batman, you know, and Brian would tell you too. I mean, like, I've called a lot of my friends along the way and been like, you know, I'm really scared with this because it's a big stage, and, you know, Jim is an idol of mine, and I do feel sometimes like I didn't have a big gestation period, you know, because of the 52, the spotlight was very bright very quickly, and I still feel like a lot of my, you know, you feel like your flaws are on display and all that stuff, but with this one and with Batman, I'm really proud of what's coming up, and, you know, I just wanted to say thanks for being so supportive of it.
Great, thanks. Okay.